I can't express enough how exciting this discovery was. When we realized that Daniel chapter 7, verse 26, it says, "And the judgment did sit." This is a court setting. You can say the judgment is a court setting, and the judgment did sit. And this is a heavenly court, and the court was adjourned. Once we realize that, okay, we have perfect placement of what's taking place in Daniel chapter 7 with what's taking place throughout Revelation. Principally, we'll look at the court settings in Revelation in relation to Daniel chapter 7. So, the court setting, it says, the judgment shall sit. And then it says, they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it unto the end. So, we saw the lion like an eagle's wings, and the wings of the eagle were plucked. His authority was plucked. Okay, so we saw that. Now, what it says there in Daniel 26, the judgment will sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and destroy. We saw the word destroy in the Aramaic is abad, which is short for Abaddon. So it's no question who this is. This is the little horn, to consume unto the end. And we know the end is Purim. It's the end at Purim when Haman is executed. Okay? Now, this is clearly the beast, like a lion, with eagle's wings, and the wings of the eagle are plucked. That's in verse 4 of Daniel chapter 7. Now, when we look at this, we begin to see everything taking place perfectly. Now, when is this court setting? Well, when we go to Revelation 13, it clearly is talking about the opening of his mouth against blasphemy again, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. So it's those that dwell in heaven that are part of this court setting. Those that dwell in heaven are part of this tabernacle. Now, when we look at time, of course, when we look at this word tabernacle, of course, we think of the Feast of Tabernacles. However, the Feast of Hanukkah is also called a second tabernacles. So, what this is telling us is he opened his mouth and blasphemed against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those that dwell in heaven. So his tabernacle, okay, is telling us about time. Not the Feast of Tabernacles, but the second Feast of Tabernacles, which is Hanukkah. Now, we know in Hanukkah we have a perfect type and shadow of the Antichrist through Antiochus Epiphanes. We do have other videos on Antiochus and how he shows us perfect matches, okay, to the Antichrist in Daniel chapter 11. And so if you historically study that and understand that, you'll really get the true profile of the Antichrist, okay? Of course, when we say the Antichrist, many people say, well, you know, Donald Trump doesn't fit the profile of the Antichrist. Well, you're going by Hollywood. And Hollywood is run by Satan, and Satan is teaching you about the Antichrist. So then you tell me that the Bible doesn't, when it talks about the Antichrist, the Bible isn't right, but Hollywood is right. And your preconceived notions of your mind by the apostate church Christian movies you watch as a little kid, okay, the Antichrist is like this, and then you grow up and you actually see the Antichrist, but you don't recognize him because you have to find him in the Bible. And the Bible tells us about historic types and shadows that happen. And you look at them and then, oh, okay, that's what he looks like. That's the profile. So this is an extraordinary thing because we are clearly seeing that the lion has eagle's wings plucked. Okay? And his blasphemy is against those in his tabernacle in heaven. Okay, so there's the heavenly tabernacle. And we see that at the end of the book of Revelation with New Jerusalem. Okay, God will dwell with them. He will tabernacle with them. All right, but clearly there's people already tabernacling in Revelation 13. And they're part of this court setting that says, take away his dominion to cause and destroy it unto the end. That's what happened in Hanukkah this year. Now, we're following the biblical calendar, so the biblical calendar year doesn't change until the spring, until March time frame. So it's still last year. It's still this year. Okay, so it's the 11th month. All right, Hanukkah happened in the 9th month. Okay, so that's what this is saying, is that he opened his mouth in blasphemy against him, his name, and his tabernacle, the second tabernacles feast, okay, and them that dwell in heaven. So that was part of the court setting that took place, okay, when his dominion was taken away. Now, what we want to do in this video is we're talking about that. We're talking about when he sits upon the throne. He sits and the books are open, and we have these court settings that take place throughout the whole book of Revelation. But what we can do is, once we overlay Daniel chapter 7 with Revelation, and we have this critical event right here in verse 26, it matches perfectly with everything else in the whole book with the Revelation. We'll explain to you how that goes. But I encourage you guys to understand the scriptures, all right? Most of you just think you know everything, okay? You went to church for 30, 40 years, so you know everything about the Bible. And, of course, you think you know everything about the book of Revelation, which is very difficult. And there's things like what we're telling you in this video that you don't really know until it happens, okay? Once it happens, it's like, wow, that's it. That's here. This is it. The book is saying, okay? But these are things that Daniel said the times of the end would not be understood, not be unsealed till the times of the end, okay? So it doesn't matter how long ago you studied this. You won't know until it happens. Once it happens, you could look and say, it's happening. This is what it looks like, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go over our notes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you right now, so you can be offended if you want. But we're going to see through the prophecy that once you understand it, you should be extremely excited. Extremely. Okay? So, this is a video, this is a channel that's teaching. All right? But I have different types of audiences, and I have different types of messages. You can see that, like once we cover subjects like the mark of the beast or the Antichrist or the third temple, maybe the views and activities on those videos is 2 times, 3 times much more than the teaching videos. This is a teaching video. So those that you want to learn as we teach, okay? But the apostle Christians, they don't want to learn. They think they know everything about the Bible. They don't want to see anything new, okay? They don't want to change. They don't want to repent. They want to live in denial of the fact that we're in the apocalypse. The Antichrist is revealed. The mark of the beast is here. Now, if you don't understand the book of Revelation and you watch apocalypse movies, that's very scary, okay? But if you understand the book, it's extremely exciting. Now, I'm prefacing all this by saying this. Most of you think there's a pre-tribulation rapture. So when we get to Revelation chapter 12, we see a man-child. Okay, so really it's a male, in the Greek, male, and child is really huios, which is son. So it's a male son, or we could say the Son of Man. The Son of Man is caught up, harpazo, to the throne in Revelation 12. Well, we can prove to you that that's already happened. When did it happen? It happened at the sign of the woman clothed with the sun. Now, once we look at the chronological events of the book of Revelation, we can see a perfect match in Daniel chapter 7, and we can prove that has happened. Now, there can be different types and phases of harpazo, or catching away. You can, if you study the word in the Bible, you'll see different examples. For example, Philip was translated. He was harpazo. He was caught away. He was taken by the Spirit from one place to another. All right. Paul was harpazo to the throne in Corinthians. And when he couldn't tell if he was in body or by spirit. Okay. So it's possible that there's different types and steps and levels and phases of harpazo, okay, being caught up to the throne. And so that's already happened. We can prove it to you by Daniel chapter 7 matching the book of Revelation. So I'm just saying that because I'm just saying have a hope in mind, look at the scriptures, all right? You know, things may not go the way you think. We're supposed to learn, we're supposed to study. That's what we do on this channel. But if you're going to troll and you're going to hate, you know, we're just going to delete and block you. But those that want to learn and that want to study and look for the scripture yourself, study it out yourself, see if those things are not so. We do have 2 pages of notes we'll share with you, and we'll show you this. I will also type the notes and put them in a comment, so you can just copy and paste the notes and see that there is a perfect match between Daniel 7 and several places. Revelation will mention here the principal places we're looking at in the book of Revelation is the throne setting in Revelation chapter 4 and Revelation chapter 5. Okay? That's the beginning and intro that we can see in Daniel 7, 9, and 10. Then we see Revelation chapter 12. Okay, Revelation chapter 12 takes place. Then we can see in Daniel 7, Revelation 13. Okay? And then towards the end of Daniel chapter 7, we can see Revelation 14. Okay? So Daniel chapter 7 covers different sections of time in Revelation. Revelation is like a movie. Okay? It's like a movie, and there's different scenes, and there's different people participating in those scenes. But there are main moments of time, main things that transpire in certain places that are very significant. So it's also like a court setting. Okay, now in a court setting, it's not like exciting or like a musical or entertaining. It's serious matters. But the book of Revelation is both. It's a court setting. It's judicial things. It's singing. Okay, it's like a play. Okay, and it's alive, and it's a real thing. And once you understand it, you can step into it by faith. Once you realize, you step into it, and you begin to see by the Spirit. Okay, once you step into it, see by the Spirit the symbolisms. Okay, so symbolisms and different things it's talking about. It's very, very important, because if you have the interpretation, the proper interpretation, Daniel said, show me the interpretation. He saw one standing by. He asked, show me the truth of the interpretation of what it is I'm seeing. Okay, and it was revealed to him. He saw it and he wrote it down. Okay, so what he wrote down, we can see the same thing of what John was shown, and the two match up perfectly. Now, if you're not familiar with the Feast of the Lord or the significance of the eclipses, we have another whole video on this, guys, but basically the eclipses form the pattern and structure of a menorah. So the menorah has 7 lamps and 22 almond blossoms. Those 22 almond blossoms are 22 eclipses. So it begins with the Lamb opening the seal, and we have the 4 blood moons. Then we get to Revelation 12, and that was the solar eclipse over America. Then we come to the solar eclipse on December 14th at the 7th trumpet. Now that is, as you can see here, it's on Hanukkah. So what we're suggesting is that this tabernacle and those that dwell in heaven, in this court case, it took place during Hanukkah. So to give you an idea of Hanukkah in the feast and where that is on the calendar, here is the calendar. The feasts of the fall and the fall feasts are here in September. And then we come to the 9th month. That's the 7th month, 8th month, and in the 9th month, we have the Feast of Dedication, also called Hanukkah. And during the feast, during that time period, on December 14th, there was a solar eclipse. That one happened in South America. And so that solar eclipse was almost very, very close to the day when he did Operation Warp Speed. Operation Warp Speed is the Mark of the Beast. So at the time he instituted the Mark of the Beast is when we believe that take away his dominion to consume and destroy it unto the end. So that was the date of the decree. Okay, so we have other videos on the calendar. If you're interested in the calendar, we have, we'll put the links in the description field for these. But now let's get to our notes here. Actually, before we get to our notes, let's talk about one other thing, because I just think this is necessary to just keep reviewing this. So when we saw the Revelation 12 sign that's here, these are those eclipses that we were showing you, the almond blossoms. And so where we were seeing this, as you can see here, it says the Mark of the Beast. Okay, so that's in the 9th month, and that's where that solar eclipse was. So we believe that was that point in time, during this window of time of the 7th trumpet, the third woe. Okay, so when that happened, that's when the Antichrist did the decree, okay, and he had the decree against him from the watchers, okay, from the watchers, to take away his dominion to where he was like Nebuchadnezzar. Now, as we look at the book of Daniel and book of Revelation, that's what we have here. So our notes here are very simple, and all we're doing is we're taking the Bible in the Bible. Okay, so we're taking the Bible. We're taking the book of Daniel, chapter 7. So what we've done is we have Daniel chapter 7. In the green, these are the verses. So Daniel chapter 7, and then the green here, verse 9, 10, etc. Then what we're doing is we're over here in green. So Daniel is in blue, Revelation is green, and Revelation, we're highlighting the chapter. So it's different places in Revelation, but we're going chronologically through Daniel chapter 7, going through the verses. So we're going to look at verse 9. I beheld till the thrones were set. Now this is really what the King James may say cast down, but no, the thrones are set, and the Ancient of Days did sit, and his throne was a fiery flame. And it says his hair is white like wool, and his garment, okay, talks about that. Well, this, of course, is a court setting. In this court setting, we also see in Revelation chapter 4, verse 2, and the throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne like jasper and sardine stone. So the sardine stone is red and like the fiery flame, and like emerald. And round about the throne were 24 thrones, okay? So it says, I beheld till the thrones were set. So these are the 24 elders. This is this court setting taking place both in Daniel 7 and Revelation 4. Then verse 10 of Daniel 7, 1,000 thousands ministered to him, 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. This, of course, the same in Revelation. We go to chapter 5, verse 11. Many angels, the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000, thousands of thousands. So we're just showing you how the court settings work and how we can see matches of the court settings in Daniel and perfectly in Revelation. All right? And then we get to, and then it said verse 10, and the judgment or court was set and the books were open. So, okay, the judgment set. And so what's happening is this is a court setting. It's a court setting around the throne. We have the 24 elders sitting. We have the multitudes of myriads and myriads of angels. Okay, and the judgment was set. And the books were open. So it says the books were open. Now, in Revelation chapter 5, John saw the book, but no one was worthy to open it. And he cried and he wept much. And then the elder said, weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah has prevailed, and he has opened the book and loosed the 7 seals. So the judgment is set. Okay, the throne setting in heaven is the same. The books are open, and you see the Lion of tribe of Judah opens the book. Okay, so of course we have perfect matches here between Daniel 7 and Revelation 4 and 5. Now, we next go to verse 13 of Daniel 7. It says, I saw in the night visions, behold, one like the Son of Man came in the clouds of heaven unto the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Now, before we explain this, where this is in Revelation, Daniel gets the interpretation of what transpires here. Okay, so let's look here at verse 16. So Daniel 7, verse 16, I came near to one that stood by and asked him the truth of this matter. So he made me known the interpretation, okay? And he said, okay, when he saw the Son of Man, when he saw this night vision, behold, one like the Son of Man came in the clouds of heaven to the Ancient of Days, he said, okay, the Son of Man, this one like the Son of Man equates to the saints of the Most High. They shall take the kingdom and possess it forever. So in verse 18, it gives us the interpretation of what happened in verse 13. Who is this Son of Man? And who is the Ancient of Days? Well, we know Christ said, I am come in my Father's name. So he can sit in the authority of the Father and be the name of Ancient of Days. Okay? He who was, who is to come. The Almighty, Haya Asher Ahaya. Okay? So he can come in the Father's name. So that's what's happening. So who's the Son of Man? And he says, well, the Son of Man is the saints of the Most High that shall take and possess the kingdom forever. Okay, so we already have the interpretation of verse 13, who is like the Son of Man, okay? So once we realize that, we see that in Revelation chapter 12, verse 5. And she brought forth a man-child. Well, child in Greek is son, so it's like Son of Man. She brought forth a Son of Man who was to rule the nations with a rod of iron, and the child or son was caught up to God and to his throne. Okay, and that's exactly what we saw in Daniel 7. I saw the night vision, the Son of Man came in the clouds of heaven to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. So many of you think that this verse is the rapture. Well, it already happened. It was the rapture. It just wasn't the one you thought. Okay, now, as we continue, we see in verse 14 of Daniel chapter 7, and there was given to him. So what it says here is once he comes, once this judgment was taking place, and he was given the rod of iron, Daniel 7:14, and there was given him a dominion, a glory, a kingdom, and the people and the nation should serve him, and it's an everlasting dominion. Well, this is Revelation 24. When we saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, judgment was given to them, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So the beginning of their judgment and the beginning of their thrones begins in Revelation chapter 12, verse 5. Okay, hopefully you see that. Okay, when the woman brought forth the man-child, or the Son of Man, who was to rule the nations with a rod of iron, he was caught up to God and to his throne. That begins this judgment. Okay, they get the rod of iron, and I saw the thrones, they sat up, and John was given to them, and they reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So that 1,000 years begins in Revelation 12:5. Okay? And he came near to the one that stood by and made him known the interpretation. We have read that already, okay? But the Son of Man is the saints of the Most High that shall take the kingdom and possess it forever. And Revelation 21:7, to the overcomers, Christ said, they will inherit all things. I will be his God, and he shall be my son. So that's how Christ, okay, he is the Son, but he raises up the sons. He is also like the Father, where he raises up sons, okay? That's clear what it says. They will inherit all things. I will be his God, and he shall be my son. And the saints will possess the kingdom forever and ever. Now we go to the verses that deal with the fourth beast, okay? So that was up into Daniel 7, verse 18, 19. Daniel asked, "What is it with the fourth beast, which is diverse from the others, exceedingly dreadful, his teeth of iron and nails of brass he devoured and broke in pieces and stamped. And he had 10 horns." Okay, so of course this fourth beast is Revelation 13. So now we're going to Revelation 13, and we're looking at this beast. We'll see a perfect match in Daniel with Revelation. The beast from the sea had 7 heads, 10 horns. He was like a leopard, feet of a bear, mouth of a lion. The dragon gave his power and his seat and great authority, and the people worshiped the beast. Okay, so the people worship the beast, and it says that and who is able to make war with him? That's this beast. Okay, so it's important for us to realize a lot of times Revelation will say a beast, but which one? Okay, so who shall be able to make war with him? That's the first beast, the beast from the sea. That's not the little horn or the Antichrist, okay? Now, Daniel chapter 7, verse 20, and of the horns, so Daniel sees 10 horns, and of the horns came a horn that had eyes and a mouth speaking great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. Okay, so this is, of course, Donald Trump is the Antichrist. That's why every word out of his mouth is great, great, speaking great things. Make America great. Isn't everything great? Isn't the economy great? Everything we're doing is great. Okay, he's the Antichrist, whose look was more stout than his fellows. Okay, well, of course, in Revelation 13:3, I saw one of the heads. So here, it's one of the horns, one of the 10 horns, but in Revelation 13, it's one of the heads. The Antichrist is both, all right? I saw one of the heads, and there was given him a mouth, speaking what? Great things. Make Babylon great, 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 great. And blasphemies. The power is given unto him to continue 42 months. Okay, so 42 months is the time period he's given the authority to prevail over the saints. Now, we have a distinction we have to make, because what's going on here is we could see that this when Revelation 12 happened, get that on the screen. When Revelation 12 happened, we saw that take place. That was the Son of Man, and they are the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess it forever. So there's some saints that take the kingdom and possess it forever, and there's others that are subject to the beast and to Antichrist and his power. Okay? That's very clear in Daniel and very clear in Revelation. We look at them together. So as we continue, Daniel 7:21, and I beheld in the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. So again, so we have these saints, okay, and the beast is making war and prevailing against them, where other ones had taken the kingdom, possessed it forever. All right. And it was given him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Okay, so the beast is mostly concerned with those that have the authority, not everybody, okay? But you can see that, there's a distinction of what's going on. So this is like Daniel. So Daniel went through his preparation, and he was brought before the king, and he had that authority. And once he had that authority, that's when they came against him. Okay, they came against him in the friends when they were throwing the furnace, throwing the lion's den. All those things happened once he was promoted. So once Daniel was promoted, those things began to happen to Daniel. Okay, so the saints are subject to this warfare taking off. And then verse 25 of Daniel 7, and he shall speak great words against the Most High and shall harass, okay, the saints of the Most High. And they are given into his hand until a times and a dividing a time. So that is the 42 months. It's the same. In Revelation 13:6, and he opened his mouth and blasphemed against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those that dwell in heaven. So obviously what's happening is there are already people that are dwelling in heaven, that are dwelling in the heavenly tabernacle, okay, by the time the Antichrist is revealed. Antichrist is revealed. He's opening his mouth. He's making war against the saints. Okay, that is going on. Once that is going on, it's very clear that he's targeting, his name and his tabernacle, but those that are dwelling in heaven. There has to be those dwelling in heaven. All right. So those that are dwelling in heaven would participate in the heavenly court settings. Verse 26: in the judgment or court shall sit. This is the heavenly court that is adjourned. Okay, so what's exciting, the reason this is so exciting, is that once the Antichrist is revealed, it means everything else must be fulfilled. The man-child must have already brought before the throne. The people are already dwelling in heaven. There's a heavenly court setting where the Most High is judging all these matters. So we could see his tabernacle. Now we're considering that the Feast of Hanukkah. Okay, sure, there's the Feast of Tabernacles as well, but it's really Hanukkah that took place after the election. Okay, the Feast of Tabernacles was September. You have the November election, and then the judgment of his wings being plucked, we believe, is Hanukkah. So it was during this time he blasphemed those that in the tabernacle, in the Feast of Hanukkah, and those that dwell in heaven. This is the heavenly court. Verse 26, and they shall take away his dominion. So he blasphemed, he spoke these things, and the watcher angel said the decree, okay? Pluck his wings, all right? Take away his dominion to consume and destroy it unto the end. The end is Purim. That's the end of the 42 months and a times and dividing of time, okay? Which you can see right here, time times dividing of time, 42 months. That ends at Purim, okay? So this is why you must know all the feasts, because that's when the court settings take place. That's when all these things take place, okay? So as we mentioned in many of the videos, he will take away his dominion, consume and destroy. To the end, the beast like a lion with eagle's wings. The wings were plucked. Verse 27 of Daniel chapter 7, in the kingdom and dominion and greatness of his kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. Then we can see a match with Revelation 14. The Lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000 having the name of him and the name of the Father written on their foreheads. This is the interlinear translation, guys. So it's the name of him. What's the name of him? The Son of Man. Okay? So she brought forth the Son of Man, who is to rule the world with the rod of iron. All right? So it's the Lamb. And withstood him 144,000 having the Father's name and his name and the Father's name written on their foreheads. And they are before the throne. They are before the living creatures and the elders. It does not say 24 elders. Okay? So you have the 144,000. You have the elders. That is who it's talking about here. In the kingdom and dominion and greatness under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. Okay? That's why New Jerusalem, the wall of New Jerusalem is 144 cubits. Now, guys, we have other videos on the menorah eclipses and a lot of this other information. We'll have links in the description field. I don't mean to have this stuff go over people's head, but we've already covered this. We've already showed you these diagrams. Be sure to print them, get the PDF file from the links, and gather this information, guys. But the book of Revelation is a court setting. It's thrones. And the white throne judgment. There are many types of settings throughout the whole book. We can understand these by comparing Daniel chapter 7 and decoding Daniel chapter 7 by seeing the court settings in heaven in the book of Revelation. We can clearly see what is taking place. Daniel, like the Son of Man, is brought before the throne. We can see him seeing the throne. We can see him seeing the things transpiring, just like the Apostle John. And these also are great assemblies. Okay, these great assemblies around the throne, these great gatherings are the feast days. Okay, so we now have important information on how to understand Daniel 7, what is taking place there, what is taking place with the beast, by comparing it with Revelation. We've been doing a series on Daniel chapter 10, 11, and 12. Alpha and Omega, Gabriel, Michael, the angel of the covenant, the men in white linen, and the kings. Okay, so in Daniel's timeline, we have the king of Artaxerxes, we have the book of Esther, and the Persian kings showing us important information. Now, Hanukkah, as we talked about this, we have the video of Antiochus Epiphanes, has the profile of the Antichrist. So it was our series on Hanukkah, which I also really encourage you to look at, shows us important information of what took place during Hanukkah. But guys, this is very, very exciting. And I encourage you to get the notes. Notes will be in the description field. Study this. I'll have notes also in a comment because I did type up the notes. And guys, as we say in each video, fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him that made the heaven, the earth, the seas, and the fountain of waters. Amen.